right, guys, so we just finished watching the show on Netflix called Crime Scene, The Vanishing at Cecil Hotel. And while all the information that's presented in this documentary is available for Google search on the internet, for anyone who hasn't watched this or feels their experience watching the show might be spoiled by listening to what we have to say about it, they should probably click off now.
But still like the video.
Yeah.
And come back and watch it later.
Yeah. That being said, so this is a documentary about this historical hotel in LA, which is conveniently or inconveniently located in Skid Row, which is one of the poorest city dwelling areas in history. It's basically, was it 56 blocks of
56 blocks, yeah.
Of homeless people and people living in low-income housing.
And the missions were all there and the shelters.
Yes.
So it's conducive to this environment.
Yeah. So basically this story is around this hotel and how all these crazy things have happened there over the years. And they focus on this one particular incident that occurred in 2013. A young woman by the name of Elisa Lam, who happened to be Canadian from Vancouver, BC, happened to vanish under mysterious circumstances in this hotel, or at least that's how they depict it in the documentary. Mm-hmm. So then it just goes on to go over the details about how she was this young woman who frequented blogging on Tumblr about her experiences. And then I guess she documented everything and decided that she was going to take a trip to LA to find herself.
She was deep and introspective.
Yes.
Which I guess also adds to the picture that you make in your mind of her. She's just a wholesome 21-year-old going on a trip to California.
Yeah. Down
Down the coast by herself, because
why not?
It's great.
Yeah. So then, yeah, her trip takes her to this Cecil Hotel, which at this point has been renovated, and there's this part of the hotel that is supposed to be for tourists called Stay on Main. So she's there.
It's 2 hotels in one, because she didn't know she was staying at this. Well, I don't know if she knew, but most people didn't know that they were staying at the Cecil Hotel. They thought they were staying at Stay on Main because they had 2 separate lobbies.
Yeah.
So you checked in from one, but then you were using the elevators. That was basically the main elevator for the building to get to your floor, which they had designated floors for just that. So you're still in the same hotel, but you don't even really know that you're in the same hotel if you didn't do like some deep digging, because they were kind of keeping them apart.
Yeah, which could be problematic considering you have people coming in who are like wearing the hat of the tourist, and unbeknownst to them, they're staying in a place that is connected to somewhere that has a lot of people from low-income areas, people with mental illness, lots of things that are, it's just like a loose cannon.
Well, it's just high
basically.
crime anyway. Like, regardless of the fact that there are, like, there's the homeless and there's people that have mental health issues, there's just a lot of crime in general. So it just adds to the whole dynamic. Like, there's just so much going on. It's just not a good...
Yeah, like, if you don't know, it's basically like you're being set up.
Essentially, yeah.
So anyway, so she's staying there and they're talking about how she's like going out on her own, and then there's this mysterious video of her one night in an elevator, and it looks like she's, well, to me when I saw it, I thought she was on drugs, but it looked like she was having some sort of like situation happen with trying to like push all the buttons in the elevator, and nobody ever saw her again.
Yeah, she exits the elevator and then no one saw her again.
Yeah. So then her parents are worried because apparently she was the type to check in every 24 hours and they hadn't heard from her. So they contacted law enforcement down there, and then they started looking for her, and they couldn't find her for a few days, almost a month. I think it was like 20 days that they had found her. 20 days after
almost.
that time that they saw her.
It was 20 or 19, because it's weird how...
Yeah. The timestamps in this documentary, they're not in a linear way that you can understand. Like, they hop back and forth from like the day that she was discovered missing to like 12 months to like 6 days later. And it's hard to kind of keep track of the timeline on an even plane.
I just want to point out that the timeline sucked, and I just feel like the documentary sucked and it was way too long. But let's continue.
Yeah.
I just...
Yeah. Anyways, they're looking for her and they're trying to figure out what led up to her disappearance.
Was there foul play?
Did she just want to get away?
Did she meet someone?
So then they just go on this like rigmarole, and then they're like,
Rigmarole?
yeah. And they just go, like, they're just trying to figure out everything. And it just goes back and forth on, like, her blog about all her thoughts and how she maybe wanted to meet somebody. And then they were saying there's all these...
Super sleuths.
Yes. The internet super sleuths.
What were they called? Mega sleuths?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Something like that.
Web sleuths.
Mm-hmm. So basically... people who are
try to solve crime online, essentially, and they get super invested and they go through the files of murders and crimes that basically go on and try to solve it, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Like Veronica Mars, kind of. Basically. So these internet sleuths come to this conclusion that she must have been murdered. And then so the documentary just goes on this tailspin into that whole world of how they came to their conclusions. And, there's this like deep analysis of this video, and they decide that the video must have been tampered with and somebody's hiding something. And come to find out, basically all it boils down to is misinformation and miscommunication.
And not putting everything out there.
Yeah.
And people jumping to conclusions way too fast. They ruined some guy's life, of the super sleuths, web sleuths. Basically accused this guy who just happened to be there a year prior, not even during the right time.
Yeah.
So they didn't actually...
Timestamp all wrong.
Yeah, they didn't actually even, look into it properly. Basically threatened the guy with death and everything, and he's a horrible person. He tries to kill himself, ruins his life. And the worst part is he had an alibi, he wasn't even in the country
documented,
at the time. He was recording an album. It was just next level. So, super sleuths, come on.
Yeah, no logic or rationality, went into any kind of... he was cyberbullied for no reason. Mm-hmm. Just because, actually, of his persona.
Because one random person found him and thought he stayed there. And it's like, okay, but... I just don't get how they didn't look at the dates. It really...
You know what?
The whole documentary, I just think, was out of whack in terms of the dates and how they were explaining things and how... basically everything just went down. I feel like, here's this girl who basically ended up losing her life through a series of unfortunate events. And I feel like, okay, we made a documentary about it and we wanted to highlight all this stuff that happens. I don't think they did a good job highlighting anything. I don't think they did her any justice. I feel like they had us on this roller coaster of trying to make us feel a type of way and lean towards certain things over 4 episodes of hour-long episodes, essentially 4 hours.
Yeah.
Where you could have done this in an hour and a half, done the same thing, and actually done some justice and had a point to it. There was really no point to this documentary.
It was extremely frustrating as well.
It wasn't even like they were saying okay, you shouldn't be a super sleuth or you shouldn't cyberbully, other than the fact that we found out how she died in the end, or we assume how she died because everything pointed to that, and then saying that there was miscommunication all the way around people. I just don't get that.
And the fact that going on the miscommunication thing, the whole documentary is fixated around this idea that she must have been placed into this water tank, essentially is where they found her. And there's this whole thing about how the lid was closed when they found her, and how could she have gotten in there? There's no way. She'd this has to be foul play. On and on for 4 episodes. Come to find out, the lid had been off at the time that she was found by the caretaker of the hotel. But between his recollection of the events and that being misconstrued by other people...
No, it wasn't his recollection. When the cops got there, it says when the cops got there, it was closed. Okay, so he found it, he closed it, and then he called the cops. That's what I'm saying. And that's what they said in the interviews. They're like, oh, well, when the cops got there, it was closed. Okay, so I don't understand why everyone just jumped to the conclusion that it was closed if they said when the cops got there it was closed. Regardless, the cops didn't say anything wrong. It's everyone misconstrued it and didn't listen properly. Attentive listening, people. We made up our own conclusions and said, oh, well, how was it closed? How was it closed? Okay, if it was closed the whole time, the caretaker wouldn't have been able to find her. Right. Because he doesn't have x-ray vision, so he's not going to see through the metal. Exactly. You know what I mean? He had to open it. Mm-hmm. Or it was already opened, right? Yeah. But again, it was closed when the police got there, and that's what they had said. So at no point, everyone making their own assumptions, come on, guys, not doing super sleuthing very well. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I think too, the super sleuth, they took something and just ran with it.
Yeah.
And then it, like I was saying earlier, no logic, no rationality was playing any part in the decisions or formulations of what they thought actually happened. So it just basically ended up being a whole waste of time.
I'm upset that I watched it. Essentially, I'm upset that I didn't just go on the internet and look it up and read what happened.
Although we were so tempted to.
I know, and we didn't, because we were like, okay, let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens. And like you said, you thought that it was going to be a cold case at the end.
Well, the way they set it up,
right?
Yeah.
And then I assumed, the same thing, or that the super sleuths, the way the involvement that they had in the documentary, it just seemed like they figured it out, kind of like that. Well, I haven't watched it, but that must love cats on the internet or whatever.
Oh, don't F with cats.
Yeah,
I didn't watch that.
But they were the ones that found like the guy, right? So it was very misleading. I think it could have been produced way better
and shorter.
Do not recommend.
Would not recommend. It's a no.
Yeah. And on the side of, do we feel that at the end result was what the cops decided due to her bipolar? She was having an episode and then she went in. You think that that's what happened, right?
Yeah. Like, after everything is actually logically played out and explained, yeah, it's totally plausible that that's what happened.
Yeah, it was so annoying that they didn't... That's what was so annoying, that they didn't just set out the information and the facts throughout.
It's basically
the
a whole bunch of speculation.
Yeah, it was just speculation back and forth the whole way through, instead of just putting out the facts and then you watching a documentary on a crime or a case. Well, it wasn't a murder, but you thought it was a murder. Just laying out the facts, and here is what it is at the end.
Just basically playing on the viewer's emotions, really.
Yeah, I don't know.
For no reason.
And then they made it seem like a scary movie, like a haunting, because there was so many other crimes that happened in this hotel, which I just think this hotel should be demolished.
And then I think they were trying to paint that picture as well, because they're like, oh, looks like she's possessed. One of the commentaries was,
the sounds and the whispers.
Yeah.
And it's like,
this was not a paranormal event.
Yeah.
This was a sad story of a young girl who tragically lost her life because of her circumstances.
And then the fact that there was no accountability for the people that just ignored
the
mental health of this person staying there. And they're like, oh, well, there was so much going on in this hotel. This hotel was already so much, we've seen so much stuff. And it's like, okay, that's fine.
That seems if it was like the blanket excuse.
Well, it was fine if it was still the same hotel. But the fact that you rebranded and you were tricking these people into staying, then you should have had some kind of, okay, this person's having an episode. She's running around saying, I'm crazy. Like, she literally, the girl, at the end of the fourth episode, the manager goes, oh yeah, she came to the lobby and was like, I'm crazy. And then they're like, oh, and the people that were staying with her, she was writing notes
they were
saying,
complaining and...
Yeah, we're complaining that she was writing notes saying, go away, get out of here. And then locking them out of the room when they were trying to get in after, because it was like hostel style room, right?
Yeah.
And so these people are doing that stuff, and she does this, and you're just going to leave it like that? Like, you're not going to investigate further? And then, on top of it, her stuff was left in the room, and they just took it, but it wasn't, like, just her clothes or a book. It was everything.
Like, everything.
Her wallet, her, like, ID, everything.
Yeah.
So, you think this person just picked up and left?
Oh, just another day at the Cecil Hotel!
With no wallet, no ID, nothing? Like, yeah. And then you're just going to go, oh, well, it's... the things that happen here.
The manager is like extremely negligible.
I've been to a lot of hotels.
That too.
Yeah. And I know that things get left and people do weird stuff, but in certain cases where things are extreme like that, they do investigate things.
Yeah.
So it's just, you really just had no care.
They just chalked everything up to, oh, well, it's the area. Crazy things happen. Oh, well, another day.
But you tricked people into coming there.
Right.
And knowing that there was that
branding.
The
worst part.
Yeah, knowing that you branded it that way and you tricked people into coming, and then you're going to not care because of the...
Yeah. And then that part to me, knowing all of that and all the, the negligence, the sweeping under the rug of everything, only to find out the girl's parents filed a suit against the hotel, which was later dismissed. But I don't understand how that was dismissed. Like, it's just like beyond me.
And the whole thing with the fire escape thing, how they were like, oh, well, you have to have a fire escape for fires. One of the things that you see in like older hotels that do have fire escapes is that the last one on the last floor going to the roof is generally up above. Like, you have to either jump up or use something to get it, or it comes down when you come down from above. Mm-hmm. And then you get on it and then it slides down. So the fact that one was just left like that, you're just letting people get onto the...
Yeah.
Right? And I understand that the windows were like half shut, but they were still half shut because you had the fire escape, so you still had to have enough space to get out.
Yeah.
So, you know what? All around, there's just.
You know
It's
what was
not-
really, I was just,
Ugh.
yeah. You just watch it and you're just like, why?
I can't even recommend it for you to be like, oh, watch it and then make your own assumptions.
Mm-mm.
No, because I just don't want
Go watch
to.
something else.
I don't want you to waste 4 hours.
Honestly, guys, like, it should have been maybe an hour and a half.
That's what I'm saying. An hour and a half would have been
Yeah.
just fine. And at one point in the first episode, I didn't realize that the first episode was an hour. So when it was going on for an hour, and I was like, oh, awesome. It's not episodes. It's just
Wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, guys, for anyone who has watched this, let us know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with our opinion? Do you disagree? Did you enjoy it? I don't know. Let us know. Don't forget to also give us a like, and we'll see you next video.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.